Hey, it's a random Saturday. Figured I'd do some streaming because I went to my local game store yesterday and picked up some new minis that I will be able to throw at my characters, my players, when I finally play again. So, let's turn that fire down a bit so we can listen to the lovely Michael Gelfi Studios calming music. Honestly, I just listen to this stuff all the time. Not a sponsor, but the creators are all fantastic. The music writer, Philip Melvin, is great. Michael Gelfi himself is a fantastic and wonderful person that I've been able to interact with on multiple occasions. And I love all of the content that he manages to put out, which is a lot. They have a huge library of ambiences and music, and honestly, I haven't seen a bad one yet. And whenever I need something, he's already made it. So I have no idea how he's coming up with new ideas, but I have no complaints. First, we'll be working on a manticore. I really enjoy these creatures because they are very good low-level boss monsters for, like, your level 1 or level 2 party. They're pretty simple to run as well. They've got plenty of cool things that they can do. They have tails. They have tail spikes that they can launch at people from range, and they're flying. So just those two things alone is probably the first time the players have had to contend with something that can fly and has a ranged attack. So it inspires some good critical thinking on the player's part. Let's see. This is supposed to be primed already, but I don't know if I want this shade. This should be fine, right? I got these minis from WizKids, and let's take a look at what colors they suggest on the back of the box. I mean, it's alright. It's all brown and boring. I've had most manticores about this same color. Maybe the wings are a little bit more red or dark or black. Yeah, I like that. Let's actually do black wings. That way, whatever other colors we put on there will pop pretty well, especially like these little claws at the very tips of them, at the tips of these wings. If we paint those like an actual bone color, those will really pop out. So black wings. Let's start with that. Let's get my black. Now, I'm not actually that great of a painter for minis. If you really want to learn some cool stuff about painting minis, go check out Fry Minis. He's a fucking master at painting. I highly suggest going and hanging out with him for a bit. Hey Dane, good morning. Just painted your first Goblin mini, and it was tricky for... Oh, yeah, small minis are tough to paint. Honestly, the brushes really matter. You can get brushes in bulk, like mini painting brushes in bulk, for not that expensive at the right place. One chain store that I like to go to for painting supplies is Michael's. It's a bit pricier, but you can tell that they're going to have the right stuff. Usually my local gaming store doesn't have the minis, the brushes that I want. They're like sold out of the smallest ones at all times. But like, let's see, like a brush like this, itty bitty little, like basically 10 bristles, and that's it. It is also really, really nice to hold it when you're doing detail work, to hold it super, super close and brace. Like, what I do is I take my finger right here, and if I'm doing the face, say, I'll brace it against somewhere else and put the brush on my finger that is touching the mini, and that makes for all the tiny little movements on purpose that I want to do. So brace your drawing, your painting hand against the mini somewhere. Let's see, I gotta paint over. Let's move the camera so you can see a little better. Yeah, there we go. So take your painting hand and put it on the mini somewhere. That way, if you like shake like this, your hand moves together. But if you're doing it like this, like they're shaking differently, and you can get some really annoying like screw ups that are basically impossible to fix. That's my biggest tip for doing a like detail work. Let's see. I got my black paint. Got to water it down a bit. Just just a quick, almost a wash, really a prime to get these wings all black. Let's change this to live chat. Oh wow, there's a significant number of people in here. Thanks everyone for joining. Let's see. Luke, doing good. How are you? It's always good to see you in all the Discord servers that I'm a part of. You're always super active in there asking how people are doing. It's refreshing to see, honestly. Maybe this is a bit too much. I wanted this to be black, not like a wash. So let's put a little more black onto there. There we go. That's better. Hey, Steven. Good to see you. Anyone else that's watching and hasn't checked out Rules and Rulings yet, go do it. I've seen several of his videos. I have yet to be disappointed in his opinions and several dad jokes, especially in the thumbnails. But yeah, if you have any questions about D&D rules and how like you should be running him, if you have a question about like, I don't know, Steven, go ahead. What's one of the most recent videos you did? What rule were you looking at? Let's see. I gotta make sure that I keep up with questions as well. So I'll pop this out. Live chat over here. Questions popped out over here. This is weird. I've never done this Q&A thing on YouTube before, and I'm not sure I like it that much, to be honest, because the live chat is separate from the Q&A questions that you guys are submitting. So I have to keep an eye on both places. Don't know how I feel about that yet. Yes. I usually reprime minis as well. I'm giving it a shot not repriming this one because you know, the style I'm going to go for is pretty simple and it's will be pretty easy to repaint as well. Most recent video was how to run explosives. Yeah, there's not a lot in any book about explosives on on anything. I haven't checked that one out yet, but usually when I see your stuff, I will go ahead. Oh, dynamite and gunpowder. That's a bit lacking, and I'm guessing that. Do you just go over in the video? Do you just go over like? Oh, sorry about that. Do you just go over what the DMG says, because most people that I talk to say the DMG is has almost no help for anyone or anything. It needs to be rewritten, and I hope they do that. That is like, I don't want to open this can of worms yet, but that is one thing I'm sort of looking forward to for 6E, 1D&D, whatever they call it. No, they're going to call it 1D&D, but, you know, Player's Handbook 2 comes out in 2024. I'm hoping the DMG 2 is a significant improvement, because there's a lot of things to be fixed in the current DMG. I did go over to my Discord and ask them for a couple questions to get me started today. And they asked me some wild stuff. Ooh, actually, let's fix this guy real quick. Where's the display? Here it is. That little white sliver on the left was bugging me. Okay. What is my... If my DM style was a creature in D&D, what is it? This is from Ko Hyun Kil, very active member of my community, and in actually Michael Gelfi Studios community. Great guy, great communities. And his question is, if your DM style was a creature in D&D, what would it be? His would be Changeling. I thought about this prior. I cheated a little bit. I read the question beforehand. And I have to go with Oni, actually. I've only seen it used once by someone else, and that was Matt Mercer towards the beginning of Campaign 2 of the Mighty Nine in Critical Role. But I've used Onis a couple of times, and I think they represent my DM style well, because I don't know, I always feel like I'm scheming and plotting about whatever is happening. I feel like there's always something going on behind the scenes that the players are completely unaware of and trying to figure out. I don't know how the eating children part doesn't really fit into my DMing style, obviously, unless I'm going for something super dark. But mostly when I do dark, it's like sort of a Lovecraftian horror thing, not a gothic horror or like vampires or folk horror like demon goats. So if you want to see what kind of horror I do, you can go check out the Garlax Chronicle on my YouTube. It was super fun to run. It's an actual play. It's only 4 sessions long. It was supposed to be 3, but as you know, campaigns tend to go longer because no one wants to stop playing. But yeah, go check that out. It was a lot of fun to run, and I hope you enjoy watching it if you do make it over there. So you go over what the rules and rulings in your... Dang it. Sorry guys, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to grab some water. I did not prepare enough for this. it's much better. Much, much better. Oh, God, no, not paint water. That's nasty. Yuck. All right, let's see. Running out of room on my desk. So, in your most recent video on rules and rulings, you go over what the DMG has, and you cover the concept of improvising by looking at the traps rules. Yes, I go boom spells. Yeah, there's a lot that the DMG has to offer, but all of it needs to be updated. So I like where you're going with that, basically. I also like to look at other existing spells and stuff for whenever I'm homebrewing something, because those are the things that are supposed to be balanced. I mean, they're not always balanced. Like, you know, Fireball does double the damage that, or Fireball and Lightning Bolt, I guess, do double the damage that any other third level spell does. So usually I try not to base it off of like the commonly known as good spells, but like I like the idea of looking at other parts like you did for traps to figure out how to balance something when I'm making something new. And if you want to help me with that, you can, in the description of this live stream, there's a link to my Discord server where I run for my community. Well, really, community is helping me more than I'm helping them, but I run playtests. So when I have a homebrew monster that I really want to, you know, make good and then release to the community, obviously for free. I'm not going to ask you guys to pay for it. But I will run it for the community as just like a combat only one shot. I've done it a few times. It's been great every time. And I'll ask the community to help me play test monsters that I build. So if that's your thing and you want in on that, or you have another excuse, which would be you have too many player characters built and no chances to play them ever, come use them in one of my playtests. I know a lot of people built like gimmick characters with, you know, that literally just do one thing in combat and they would never actually play them in a campaign, but for a combat only one shot it's the perfect opportunity to do that sort of thing. Let's see, I'm almost done with the wings here. And when I paint minis, I don't like to look at the same one for too long, because, you know, I get bored and then I just don't want to paint anymore. Once we get all this, do I do the muscles between his back? It's hard to see when they're in crevices like that. I can paint over it with a thick enough paint so the black doesn't bleed through. Usually I don't like looking at single minis for too long because I'll get bored. And besides, usually I'll prime them and then they will have to dry, right? So you set it aside and you pick up a new one. And usually if you're painting like Warhammer minis, which I don't know why I'm talking about it, I've never done Warhammer minis at all, ever. But if you're doing that, you have a whole set of like 5 of the same mini to paint. Whereas in D&D, if you're painting minis, you get 5 completely different ones, which I think is much more fun. Let's see. Fill this in a little bit. Make sure there's no white spots bleeding through, and then we will move on to the next one that I picked up at my local gaming store, The Source, which is a great name for a gaming store. Literally is the best one I've ever seen. It's just The Source, comics and games, in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area in Minnesota. Which is saddening to me because I have yet to find another content creator in my area. Like, Minnesota is like scant and empty. There was one content creator before I became like a YouTuber that I met at the source, but I have no idea what his name is. I know he's in Minnesota somewhere, but that hasn't helped me find his channel. But he does painting specifically, and he gave me some advice. It was a painting event there. I've been trying to find him, but have had no luck yet. Let's see. Yes, the DMG has a lot to offer, but it's not laid out in a helpful way. And it puts a lot of focus on world building. And even then, like, the DMG is not the place you want to go to figure out how to do world building. There's so many. Because, like, world building is not a D&D specific thing. It is, and if you're creating a story, like in Harry Potter, like J.K. Rowling had to do world building, right? There's so many other sources to find world building stuff than just, the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I usually go to, maybe this is a bad idea, but I used to go to Reddit back when I was a baby DM trying to figure out where I was in life and in my dungeon mastering career. But yeah, a Dungeon Master's Guide does not need to put emphasis on world building. I do have a video coming out soon that I have the script pretty much written for. I just need to film it and then edit it. So I'm guessing, I wanted it to come out Monday, but it's probably going to come out Thursday. Super excited, and it is about, looking at one specific part of the Dungeon Master's Guide and just cutting half of it out to make it better. Yes, world building and campaign prep there's a big difference between those two things. And if you put more effort into one, you don't have to put as much effort into the other. So if you have a fully fleshed out world and you know everything about it, that's kind of how I try to do it. You don't need to prep as much because you already know everything that's going to happen. And you can run it in a very sandboxy way. Whereas if you do a whole bunch of campaign or session prep, every single one, then you don't need to do as much world building because you do the prep as you go. You'll do some world building in the process. So when you start out, you're going to need to do more campaign prep. But after you've been doing it for a while, you will be able to get away with not prepping as much. Now, this next mini, I was super pumped when I found it on the shelf. So let me grab... In the thumbnail for this stream, I showed you guys this guy. This beautiful, beautiful boy. Super proud of this beholder I painted a while ago. But it is kind of outdated, and I wanted to do another one because I've used this guy like 4 times. All right, used him 4 different times, and I need another one. And I didn't want to just, buy another of the exact same copy because this is the cheapest beholder you can get. WizKids minis are great because they're just like dirt cheap and really well sculpted. So I was super excited when I found this on the shelf. It's a completely new beholder mini after one of the arts of beholders in the what was it? I think it's Volos, Mordenkainen's. I want to say Volos. They have a whole section of beholders, and this guy is featured in one of them. He's got like this nasty green look with green teeth and everything. Pretty dark colored. I think for this one, since This guy is already really, really darkly colored. I think for this one, I want to go for like lighter shades. So I'm actually going to reprime it in white, which is not something I do a whole lot. I haven't decided about the plastic eye cover. I'll probably take it off now that I think about it. Not gonna be honest, had no idea you could take this off. But yeah, I'm going to just like, because there was a plastic eye cover for this one as well, and it was just a single band that goes straight around here and made everything inside super fuzzy. But I like how they did the pupil and like sculpted the pupil into the eye, and it looks like they did the same thing here. So I'm going to definitely keep that thing off. Trash time. Okay. White primer. Oh wow, I'm gonna have to go buy some more of this stuff soon. Oh, House of Lament. I've always wanted to run that. I haven't like found the time or the right group to run it yet, but I always wanted to, like, ever since I found it in Van Richten's, I've wanted to run House of Lament. You felt vastly underprepared for running that compared to making your own world? Really? I always thought the one-shots that they did were pretty good at, like, you know, preparing you for running it. I mean, that's the point. World building is way easier than actually running a game, and you have way more resources. Yes, absolutely, 100% agree with that statement as well. All right, wash time. Actually, you know what? This brush is too small for this. Let's rinse this off, put it in there. Let's get my big, old, nasty brush. Try to figure out. There we go. That's probably too much paint. I won't use all of it. That's okay. Here we go. Yeah, so when you actually ran it, even though you were underprepared, Dane, did it, like, go well? Did you have fun? Did the players, respond well? I talked about it once in a D&D, group call called, what is it? It's, not the Dungeon Masters Guild. It's called Dungeon Master Roundtable, that Fred from How to D&D puts together. We're not doing any for the rest of the year, but they are super fun to be a part of. And I brought up House of Lament, saying I've never run it, but I really want to. And another guy, I forgot his name, but he runs the D&D homebrew channel. Was talking about how seances are inherently some of the creepiest things you can do, both in real life and running it in D&D. And the House of Lament features seances heavily, which I think is super, super cool and part of the reason I want to run it. Seances are cool. They do some nice horror things. You think that every single wooden creek is the undead or the people that have passed on trying to reach out. And, I don't actually believe in ghosts, but I do believe in creepy things being creepy. So I'm a big fan of seances in that regard. Another question. You tend to make your combats too difficult. Any tips for scaling it back, but also not making it a cakewalk? That is something that took me many, many years to figure out. It is probably one of the hardest things to do, especially for a starting DM. My suggestion is to wing it, actually. I like to determine hit points of my monsters on the fly. So I'll use a basis for like I'll say, okay, I usually have hit points that are too low, so I'll start with like round it up to the next 50 or the next 100 whenever I'm having the party fight a monster. And then I will, if they're really, really struggling, I will lower their maximum hit points to make the combat shorter. As far as actual damage that things do, I do. It's harder to tweak that. You really have to like fudge dice rolls, which is a hot topic in the D&D community. Don't get Jordan from Flutes Loots started on it. He hates fudging dice rolls. He believes that if the dice say so, then it was meant to be, which is a vibe I can get behind. But I also like the point of the game is for the players to have fun, and it is fun to overcome a difficult challenge, and that's the goal when you make combat encounters, right? At least that's the goal when I make combat encounters. So you want it to make it difficult, but it's not fun to keep dying. I actually went over this in one of my recent videos. I'm running this evil campaign, and I was trying to up the difficulty, and people kept dropping to 0 hit points every combat. And the players actually took me aside and said, "Okay, guys, this is getting old. I don't want to be dropped to 0 every single combat. It's getting old. I'm getting bored of it, and like it's not fun anymore." So I started mixing in like easier stuff for them to work on. I had them fight a troll at like level 3. One of the player characters actually died as the troll ate him. And that was the start of, it's a tough campaign. So, to answer your question, yes, tweak on the fly, like Steven said. It's probably the easiest way to balance your encounters every single time. Usually encounter calculators don't help that much. I usually make encounters just slightly above deadly and then tweak them from there, because I usually run my campaigns like pretty high magic, so they have a couple magic items already once they hit level 5, like as a party, and you're supposed to only have like one person has one magic item. They're not supposed to change the challenge rating, so I'll calculate it as 1 above deadly, and if it's a lot of magic items, I will calculate it as if the players are 1 or 2 levels higher than they actually are. And that's how I do my encounter calculators when I'm actually running stuff. But I will still tweak it in the middle of a battle. Like if it was like even the thing I did most recently, not the honey heist from last night, but on Wednesday I ran a charity campaign for a bunch of other content creators, and they fought a Neothelid, the mind flayer tadpole that grew too big, and is basically a purple worm with like an acid breath weapon and psychic abilities. It's terrifying. They were having difficulty, but I wanted it to be even harder than it was. So what I did was I literally just gave it more hit points. It's supposed to have 230. I gave it 260 so that the final blow was as cinematic as possible. Like whenever something really cool happens, when the attack is flavored in an awesome way, that's the blow that will finish it, no matter how many hit points it actually has left. Yeah, balancing encounters is tough, and it will take a while for you to get, like, it took a while for me to get good at telling, like, being able to balance it while it's happening. But after, doing it, it wasn't even really that long. I did it maybe twice, and then I was confident that I could do it, like, constantly for pretty much every session or every campaign. Tough question. It's something that took me a long time to figure out. Thanks for asking. Popped in your work in progress of the Old Beholder in the art channel on Discord. Which Discord? I know we're in a couple. Are you talking about Fry Mini's Discord? You don't need to fudge dice rolls. You can introduce mechanics like broken weapons, reckless attacks, suboptimal enemy decisions. Yes, that's a good one. Suboptimal enemy decisions. I always like to run, run monsters entirely based on their intelligence scores. So if a monster is animalistic in intelligence, has like a 3 or a 4, then it is not going to make the smartest decisions. It's going to preserve itself first and foremost. But if you're fighting like a lich with an intelligence of like 26, then yeah, it's going to outsmart everything. Oh, on my Discord. Awesome. I have that pulled up. That's sick. Let's see if I can... I'm not sharing a screen anywhere on here, but yeah, if you guys go over to my Discord and check out the art channel, you can see what Steven from Rules and Rulings is talking about. Super cool. I love that it's missing tentacles. That's awesome. That's a nice touch. Very, very unique. All right, moving on to the next one. I'll let you guys pick. So I have my fiance's next character is going to be a bard. I know this says human sorcerer, but her bard is actually doesn't use a musical instrument. Her bard uses, like we talked about this, her spellcasting focus is a quill that never runs out of ink. And when she casts her spells, she's a lore bard. So she actually writes these stories, studies them, knows the history of the land. Doesn't use a spell book or anything, but also doesn't use a musical instrument, has no musical talent. But it still plays a bard by writing out script in the air. Like, if you've seen the anime Fairy Tale, there's a character that casts spells by writing things in the air. Like if she writes the word iron in the air, the letters turn into iron, and that's how she attacks. And that's kind of the vibe we're going for my fiance's next character. Let's see. So we can do this. I'll set these aside for now. They're kind of nice. I like, your normal player character vibe. There is also this one, which is going to definitely need to be primed. It looks like they missed some spots on the cape. So I can paint one of those. They look almost identical, though. Maybe this one slightly more detailed. There's some, filigree along the chest piece, where on this one it's much more simple, no extra carvings, only on the skirt there, which is going to look really cool when I dry brush and wash that. So I'll paint both and let her pick which one. The other option is slightly larger. In one of my upcoming, the evil campaign that I mentioned earlier, they know that at some point they're going to have to deal with a chimera, which I'm kind of excited for. I've run them once before, but it was a long time ago before I knew what I was doing. And I don't remember their stat block that well, so I'm going to have to find out exactly what they can do when I prep for whatever session that ends up being. Ooh, yikes. Okay, this is weird. This tail is very much in the way, sliding between the front, like the paws there. That's going to be tough to paint. Yikes. Okay. Should have seen that before buying it. There's a couple copies, and I thought this one might be best. It was not. Chimera all the way. Yes, absolutely. I'm kind of excited to paint that guy. So, what do you guys think? Chimera for sure. Only got one opinion so far here. But if we want to do Chimera, then sure. I'm alright with that. let's see. Do I want to reprime this? It looks pretty well primed already. I don't see any clear see-through spots. Because what WizKids does is they cast it with, you know, with like this stuff. With this clear plastic right here. And then they prime it everywhere that isn't that clear plastic. But sometimes, like on this one, you can barely see there on the cape. It's not primed at all. Like, you can see through the cloth. That cloth is obviously not supposed to be see-through. It's not made of glass. But it looks like we are all in agreement. We are going to not worry about the people here. We are going to paint the monster. Let's see. The issue here is that I'm going to have to hold it. I don't know where. I'll probably just hold it from the wings and paint the body first. But the body's going to be a lot of different colors because it's a lion head, a goat head, and a dragon. Let's see what they've got on here. I don't know how well you guys can see that. That's, again, a lot of browns and reds. I like what they did with the wings, how it gets kind of black towards the ends of the webbing. I might copy that directly. Do some weird dry brushing stuff that I've never done before, and make it up as I go. We'll probably wash it, do a first coat in that, like, lion's mane color, sort of like a sandy brown. Which means I have to get out my actual paints instead of just the black and white priming stuff that I've been using. Let's see. No, you're not metal. You don't get shinies like that. That's a bit dark. Here. Try that. See how it goes. Yep. Usually I have more space than this when I paint. I'm trying out using it at my desk so I can stream it. This is the first time I painted for people watching. No, I don't cut mold lines. Like, I don't even see them on here right off the bat. Like, I saw some on the Beholder and I saw some on the Manticore, but I think that's just extra. Like, you don't have to cut the mold lines. Like, unless it's a super, super obvious one. Like, yeah, right here is where the mold line is, along the bottom. I'm just hoping you can see it with the lighting and the shadow there. Just a straight line, straight across the bottom. No one's gonna see that. No, like, people at my table don't care. The people that watch my channel don't care that my minis are absolutely perfect. I'm not a painting channel, so no, I don't... Yeah, exactly. Cut them off if they're gonna bother me, like, as an artist. But, like, on this one, no, they're not gonna bother me at all. Yeah, we'll be fine. Let's see. So we'll paint this, and then we'll glue it to the stand. Or maybe not glue it to the stand yet. Oh, that tail is supposed to be there? What the? No, that tail's not supposed to be there. Let's put it on the outside. Does it fit? Yeah, the tail is supposed to be fully on the outside, because this little indentation right here fits the hand, the claw mark of this guy right here, and the tail was actually just like over here in the way of that hole, and now it is not, but it's gonna be a pain to paint when I get around to it. Any other questions about running D&D specifically? Or just random questions, you know. I'm pretty sure it's just you two, Dane and Steven, in the chat right now, so we're just hanging out. We're just chilling. Let's see. Sandy brown boy. Hopefully I don't water it down too much. see. Let's use not this guy. We're gonna use the same guy we were using before. Another super old brush because it doesn't actually matter. Because we're just plopping paint down. Really, we're not doing any detail work. Maybe a little bit more water. All right. Grab him by the wing. That's still a little thick. Spread this out a bit. Because I know that you want your painting layers to be thin. Because if they're too thick, they will cover up the actual sculpt. They'll fill in the lines. It'll be less defined in the end. And sometimes that's okay, because you can always bring that back out with a dry brush or a wash, or both. But in this case, I'm going to be careful and do like a thinner coat. Mix up some more water in my main pile here. Any big plans for the channel going into next year? Any video series we should be looking out for? No big plans. I'm pretty much doing what I'm doing. No big changes. I want to focus more on the one video that made my channel was lessons learned from an experimental campaign. And that campaign in particular is over. You can see the boss battle video for like the 3 boss battles I ran at the end because, I needed to tie up all the loose ends that I had made as I was running experiments. But I want to do more of that kind of thing where I will be talking about here, this is what I tried, and this is whether it worked or not, and how I fixed it if I tried it multiple times. And that's what my upcoming video is going to be about. If you go, there are 3 places right now where you can see examples of this that I will be pulling from. Most recently was that charity stream I mentioned earlier. Constructed Chaos's channel has it. He's not in the Fry Mini stuff. He barely has time for his own Discord channel, but he's super chill. Love all his content, and I've collabed with him a few times now. He was in the Garlax Chronicle, and he was in this charity stream. And in both of those, I ran a chase. But it's not a chase how Wizards of the Coast is, suggests you run it in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Like I said, I basically just cut out half of their rules, and suddenly it was made much, much better. Gotta bend this out of the way. Here we go. That's better. So I just literally cut out half of what they said to do and ran the rest by ear, and it was amazing. My players literally cheer when I announce that we're going to run a chase. But you'll have to see more details about what exactly that is when the video comes out. But that's not next year. I do want to do more charity streams as well. I ran one on Wednesday, like I keep saying, and it was so much fun. It was a great time. We raised $300 for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, fighting to end cancer and other fatal diseases in children, because that's like one of the best mission statements I know. Let's see. Is that good enough for the body? Because I'm going to probably do the legs the color of the goat's head. Because, he's got goat legs right there and a goat head. And in here, on the, where'd it go? On here, the goat and the actual legs of the goat look like they're the same color. I'm going to try to do that. Let's see if I can blend those two colors. Not something I usually do, so I want to give it a shot. Let's make sure we got all the spots before moving on to probably doubling back to the Manticore, because we're going to use this same color. You know, lions and stuff. Not that all lions are the same color, but if these two are the same color, it's just easier for me. Let's see what else my channel asked for. Let's see. One of the questions was, what is your ideal combat you set for? And as in how difficult and what the mood you what is the mood you thread for it? We literally just went over that. Each animal gets a head and 2/3 limbs. Dragon gets an extra because dragon. Yeah, someone had to get the tail. All these creatures have tails, but we could only give it to one. Yeah, we already went over combat, so let's see. Oh, yeah, this is a good one from my patron, Starvosia. What are the top 3 starts to an adventure not set in an inn? Whenever adventure starts get mentioned, I always think back to one of my favorite of Matt Colville's videos, where he's going over what he calls the hot start. I do talk about this in a Dungeon Master Roundtable, because this is a pretty common question, I think. But let's just paint his hair. We'll paint his spikes another color later, but we'll just paint his mane this sandy brown. 3 starts to an adventure. There's a comment on that hot start video by Matt Colville that says, start. You start in a tavern. Hot start. The tavern is on fire. And it always makes me laugh whenever I think about it, and I really want to actually do something like that. Like, you start in a tavern, and then 2 minutes into the session, right as the character introductions are done, something explodes. Like, inside the tavern. Maybe it's just the bad cook starts the, Hey, Jordan. Glad you could join us. Yes, Chimera. We switched back over to the Manticore to let the Chimera dry for a bit. But yeah, I think, Jordan, you were on that Dungeon Master Roundtable that I'm talking about. The starting to a campaign. That was a question that was asked in my Discord for this live stream. And the hot start was one thing I mentioned by Matt Colville. And you start in a tavern, and then a hot start would be you start in a tavern and it's on fire. But one of my favorite one, a cold start. The blizzard comes in through the broken windows. Or just everyone is frozen in time inside the tavern. A lot of wild stuff. Like, one of my favorite ways to start a campaign. I was actually running a campaign for my family, like my mom, my dad, my 2 siblings, and the start I did for it was I like to do session zeros individually with each character. So like we actually play a little bit. We build their character and then we play some so they can get used to like running the character, do a little bit of combat, do a long rest, and then come back. Yes, it's a tavern, but suddenly everything freezes violently. I love it. But one of my favorite ways to start session 1 is by saying roll initiative. Like, if you have a combat all set up and ready to go, and that's how the players meet, is great. It was actually a manticore that they were fighting. A rabid manticore had stolen. Like, there was a missing child that one person was going after, and there was a missing friend that someone else was going after, and the third player was chasing after the manticore itself because it was rabid. So the person that was missing found the child that was missing and was carrying her, running from the rabid manticore. And it set up, everyone had a connection to that battle, and everything fit together super well when they defeated the manticore and like started talking to each other. It's like, thanks for your help. I couldn't have done this alone. Da 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 da. And that's just how the characters met, and that's one of the starts that I'm proudest of. Like a start that I actually ran myself. So yeah, starting session 1 with roll initiative. Doesn't matter how you do it, but the intensity is like right there from the get-go. Levistus turns up. He has a job for you. Well, it would be hard for Levistus to turn up. He's supposed to still be entombed in his iceberg in hell. Angel of... not Angel. Some sort of minion from Levistus turns up and says, you have to do this now. Haha. If you don't, we'll kill you right now. I don't like the... people say that starting in a tavern is cliche, but I think even more cliche than that is you get hired for a job. I don't like that. Just saying you guys all have money and that is your motive to start this entire adventure together is kind of weak. Like, I want both the players and the characters to care more about the story right from the beginning in session 1. Sorry, I keep bumping the microphone. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I know when I bump the microphone and I'm listening to myself, it's loud booms. Been meaning to use that in like a actual D&D session, but I have not found a chance yet. Like a booming door. Boom. No. All right, I'll stop. Let's see. I think I got all the Sandy Brown main pieces here. Because my favorite thing about manticores is that they're intelligent. They have like an intelligence of like 13 or something, maybe 11. But that's a human intelligence. They can speak. I always let my manticores talk to the players. I make them, unless it was the rabid one that I ran for my beginning of my family's campaign, I have them talk to the players. I think I've talked about this on a DM roundtable as well, where there was a group of manticores that were being turned into dragons through science and magic, and they actually talked to the party and convinced the party to free them, and so that they could help fight whatever was coming. Manticores immediately betrayed the party and left, but that's besides the point. Yeah, if you got a low intelligence party, you're gonna have a manticore that can outsmart them. And it's going to, like, blow the players away and probably make them a little bit upset. Oh, no. I missed a spot with the black that I will have to go and fix right now. All right, where are you? There we go. Yeah. Got that. Edges are good. The One thing I don't like about painting in black and like looking for missing spots is you can't tell what's missing until it's dried, because the white light reflecting off of the wet paint makes it look like white spots. So they're like camouflaged inside the actual paint. Makes it tough. So you have to dry and then double check. But that's okay. Because we have... Oh no, I wonder if... I put a lot of paint to prime this beholder. I wonder if it dried yet. Let's see. Let's do some more questions. What other questions have been asked? How to deal with player compositions, both in and out of game. I often find players who don't talk much to really enjoy their characters, but not really engage with others in the same way my DM in Crime does his character. So, dealing with players specific, like, there are multiple ways to run D&D. I don't think anyone's going to argue that point. There, you can run it as like a hack and slash dungeon crawl sort of vibe, but not everyone enjoys that kind of thing. So at some point, you're going to need to see if we can. There's a bunch of paint built up beneath his chin that I'm trying to get. When I start a campaign, I figure out exactly how the exactly how they have fun. Like, why do you play D&D? What's fun about it? You've played with me before. What do you like most about how I run it? What do you want me to change? There is a specific one specific question that I like to ask, which is, I give them a list of types of players, and I say pick 3, and usually from that I get a pretty good idea of what the players are going to do, like what they enjoy. I know how to run the game to make them have fun. And that's the most important part about D&D, is that everyone at the table is having fun. But I can't tell you what that list is because it's been promised to my patrons on Patreon. If you go over there and sign up, I think I set it at $3 a month. You get all of my extra content that I'm halfway working on. You get full-length cat videos that I clip for the end of my YouTube videos. And you can help vote on what video comes next. But right now I only have 2 patrons. So when we get to 5, I've promised them that I will release what that questionnaire is, the questionnaire that I send out to players when I start a campaign. Let's see. What color do I want to make this guy? I want to make him as starkly different from the other beholder as I can. We could do... Ooh, is this Misty Haven? Yeah, this is Misty Haven. I fucking love this song. We could just do the green that it is on the box, like this weird puke green, but brighter. Let's see what we got. Could just have him be white, just a white beholder. That'd be tough to do, though, with the actual wash. It doesn't look great right now. So I got this guy. Could just do that. And then dry brush it in white. Yeah, that could work, actually. Warrior, tactician, actor, author, comedian, puzzler. Yeah, it's something along those lines. I know actor is one of them. Tactician is sort of another one. Yeah, albino beholder. Um, yeah, let's make him that shade of green, and make his eyes nice and red later. Make him really pop out. Okay. Ugh, this one's got too much dried paint in it. That's not helping. Anyway, moving on. Any other D&D related questions? Something to start a conversation. I kind of want to avoid the whole one D&D topic. I mean, it's been overdone. Everybody else is making content on it. I mean, I don't really have opinions. I haven't actually fully read through any of the documents. I'm just sticking with 5th edition for now. Let's do this brush boy. That's probably enough. Water? Ooh, that might be too much water. We'll see. Let's make them dry over there with this paint palette in here so you can actually see what I'm doing a little bit. And so I have better lighting. Ooh, yeah. I'm already a fan of this. I'm very happy with this color. All right. Thanks for dropping by, Steven. Always good to see you around in all the Discords. Have a great rest of your day. For anyone who has joined back in, I'm just, hanging out, chilling. Glad you joined to chill with me, painting some minis. Found this new beholder when I was last at my local game store. I decided, ooh, yes, time to get back into painting, just because I saw this thing. So I bought a couple, as I always do. I can't ever just leave with one mini, right? And that's what I've been working on. This guy and a couple others that you will see partially done if you stick around. This is also a Q&A. So if you go up top, I'm not exactly sure how it works from your end. You can ask it in either chat. There's a chat specifically for questions, but there's also one for, just hanging out, commenting on stuff, giving me advice maybe. If you're an experienced painter yourself, and you see I'm doing something that just makes you cringe. Because I'm not that great at painting, but I am very proud of my DMing capabilities. So if you have any questions about, hey, Logan, I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, just doing some painting, figuring out some D&D stuff. I went through all the questions that have been asked already. We talked about how to balance combat. We talked about, what else? How to paint in details, especially like faces and eyes. Basically impossible. It took me a long time to figure out that you need to brace your hand against the mini. All right, thanks for the lurk. What you playing, if you don't mind me asking? I've been getting back into Civ 6 recently. Very not D&D related at all. But I wanted to keep up with some friends. One person dropped out of a campaign and said, "You're still my friend. Let's hang out." And I recently re-downloaded Civ. Do you play Civ? And he's like, "Yeah, let's do that." And so we played a couple times just to catch up. So I got Civ is my way of keeping up with old friends. No, I'm not an amazing DM. I am an okay DM. If I ever become amazing, that means I will have less room to grow. And honestly, that's the fun part, is figuring out new ways to DM, new styles. Improving upon what is already there is what I enjoy most about running D&D. That's why I made a channel about it. Yeah, I am in love with this color. Oh, he's going to look so nasty. Dark and Darker. Is that what you were playing before? It's sort of like a procedurally generated dungeon multiplayer online, sort of go beat up skeletons, find other party members. I watched one of your streams where you were playing something along those lines, but I don't remember what it was called. Ah, yes. For anyone else that's listening, go check out the Red Hair Inn on Twitch. Logan likes to do a lot of D&D homebrew stuff, mostly just hanging out, play some D&D-esque video games sometimes. And he was in my charity stream last Wednesday. We had a ton of fun. He is a fantastic dungeon master. On his Discord, I'm in the DSLU, the Dungeoneering, Slaying, and Looting Union. Yeah. Basically, Logan runs games for people, like, in his Discord. Just random people. They're not streamed. He's just giving back to the community, and it is super cool that he started that. And I've loved every single session that I've been a part of. Tarkov, that's the game you were playing before. But this one, Dark and Darker, is darker, as the name suggests. I'm starting to run out of paint here. Forgot that I was going to be painting this whole guy. Let's keep this nice and wet. Where'd it go? There it is. How often do I prepare for a one-shot How do I prepare for a one-shot I know I only have a limited time for? So, I actually did this. I tried out something that was suggested in one of the Dungeon Master Roundtables. Fred from How to D&D suggested that he was talking about old Strahd one-shots, or like something along those lines. And he said that you split it up into 3 acts, and the first act is, introduction. Here's the story. The second act is anything you want, anything in between, all that stuff. But the third act, in order to make sure that you get it done on time, the third act, usually a combat, has to be able to happen at any time in the middle of the second act. Like, you need to be able to interrupt whatever they're doing with this combat. And that's what I did for the charity one shot. Like, I was wondering if, like, there would be time for between when you chased down the Mind Flayer and caught him to, like, investigate, figure out some stuff. But I wanted to leave half of it for a long combat, which ended up exactly being what we needed. But we were already halfway done the instant you got the Mind Flayer. So the Mind Flayer said, "Haha, you'll more terrible things are coming," and immediately there's an earthquake, and and Mr. Anderson showed up. We couldn't figure out how to pronounce Neothelid, the Mind Flayer tadpole thing that was fully grown. Basically a psychic floating purple worm. But yeah, so what was the question? Preparing for a one-shot. Make sure that the third act, the combat at the end of the session, can happen at any time. Like, you make sure you can interrupt wherever the players are. When Fred from How to D&D was talking about it, he said the players are wandering around Strahd's castle, and third act is Strahd appears. Just appears, and wherever the players are, they then have to fight him. So I think that is the best way to make sure that you get it done on time. The other option is don't plan for it to be a one-shot. Like, write a one-shot, but schedule 2 sessions. That has worked for me in the past as well. Let's see. Anybody else got any burning questions? If not, I can look at other ones from my Discord that were posted earlier for people that could not join. From people that could not join today. Oh, my desk is a mess. I heard my phone go off and I have no idea where it is. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to whatever is next from Discord. What are some magic items you suggest or even make up on your own to give a low level or low power party? Fun, but not overpowering. The first one that comes to mind is the immovable rod. That is a classic D&D item that I've been in love with since I first opened the Dungeon Master's Guide. Like, that was the first cool thing that I thought was going to lead to so much in-game shenanigans, and boy, did it. It can be used to prop open doors. It can be used to climb things. It can be used to hold monsters in place. Like, there are so many very creative uses, and that is one thing that I really encourage in all of my games is creative uses of abilities and items. So whenever I give them items, I make sure that they're things that can be used creatively, like Ring of Jumping or the immovable rod. Yeah, Ring of Jumping is another one. It just lets you cast the jump spell on yourself at will, which does exactly what it sounds like. It makes you jump farther. But yeah, so Ring of Jumping, immovable rod, and I don't know. I'm not really a fan of most of the common magic items because they don't do anything like super fun and interesting. Like, the Wizard's Hat might be the most interesting of the bunch because it lets you attempt to cast a cantrip that you don't know once per day. And that is very, very, it's a common magic item. That's exactly the power level I'd expect. Basically useless. But there is some, like, if you make up homebrew stuff on the spot, that can be a good time. In one of my campaigns, the players discovered we just called it a puff box. And they won it from, like, this random witch in the woods, and whose cabin, disappeared when they looked back. And all it did was it had evil magic in it. Like, it stank of necromancy. But literally all it did is when you opened it, it would blow out a puff of air and, like, make your hair blow back. And that's all it did at any time. No matter how many times they cast Identify, that's all they got from it because that's all it could do. There was never any explanation. They never put it to any use. But boy, did they investigate the hell out of it. It ended up being a good time. The puff box. So I'd say those are my 3 give them to low-level parties. just something that makes a useless aesthetic effect. Like, basically cast prestidigitation, but in one certain way. Like a box that smells like chocolate, but doesn't have anything inside, and that's it. Or a necklace that always feels cold to the touch. It's like, gives it the aesthetic of something that's more powerful, but really there's nothing there. Alright, I think we covered as much as I want to as I continue painting the parts that I missed. Or maybe we're not done with this guy yet. But this will take a while to dry, I'm sure. And we can move back to the Manticore or the Chimera that I was also working on. Let's see. Maybe. I know Steven was here earlier. He asked about what plans I had for my content. And I have a question for you guys, those of you watching. If you have watched my class selection video project, what did you think? I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on it, but YouTube doesn't seem to like it that much. The algorithm said, no, you're trying to cheat the system, so we're not going to give it to you. But what did you guys think? I mean, I made a class selection video series that should be like right on the front page of my YouTube channel. Let's do these gums better. And it basically is designed to help you pick your class, mostly for like new players, which is not something my channel usually does, like new player stuff. It's more like experienced DMs, here's how to up your game even further. But it's, it's pretty much evergreen content. All of it, both the DM advice and the player stuff. But I did this class selection video to help new players or experienced players choose the next class they're going to play. And you go from one video to the next answering questions, and it will give you a result and a quick synopsis of what that class is all about, stuff like that. So if you have seen it, what do you think? I put a lot of time and energy into it, probably way too much. I like the structure of that kind of video, but it was so much work. It was like I would have gotten more from just making separate videos instead of making a single 30 video project. I took a lot of content, took a lot of videos of my cat to put into the end screens of that. And that was fun. That's always a good time. Okay. Back to the Manticore. What do we want to do next? So, this is the Beholder variant. I don't want that. I want the Manticore. Where'd it go? There it is. Oh yeah, it's just like browns and everything. No, I want to make it... Do you think coloring it all one shade would make it look naked? Maybe I'll make the skin tones slightly different. Huh. So I'll make the humanoid face different from the rest of the body, the claws, the feet, because it's built. Looking at the sculpt, it's skin or hide. It's not hair like the mane, like a normal lion. Heard my phone go off again and still don't know where it is. I've made a complete mess. My lovely fiance is going to call it so I can figure out where it is, see if there's anything important that I'm missing. No, I haven't found it.
It's right there, isn't it?
Right where?
Your phone, isn't it? You're using
Oh,
it to
I'm using
film?
it. Duh. Wow, I'm so smart. Guys, this camera right here is my phone. It was right there the entire time. Thank you. Wow. So, can't look at notifications that well, but that's alright. Well, it's a lazy Saturday. Things don't matter today, which is kind of how I like it. I've had a long, extra long weekend. Took a bunch of days off of work for my birthday. And every single one has been fantastic, including today. Let's see. So I got your 3 magic items. What is my favorite class or playstyle to DM for? Also from Kohyankil. Class or style to DM for? I don't really have a favorite as far as like a class or style. I think the best campaigns I run are when all the players enjoy similar things, because that makes it very easy for me to like design it around their what they like, and it makes it easy to make it fun for everyone at the table, as opposed to running when 2 players in the campaign, one of them really enjoys roleplay and talking in character, and the other one only enjoys combat and making powerful characters and just doesn't feel comfortable talking in character. Running those 2 players in the same campaign can be tough. You can do it. I mean, you just give NPCs for the one player to talk to, and tough combat for the other, the combat liking player to run around in. But it is much easier if all of them only like combat, or all of them really enjoy talking in character. I think that is probably my favorite to DM for. And it is part of why I asked that question in the beginning, like, what do you enjoy? So I can get a feel for how to run the campaign. But we got to decide on a hide or skin color for this guy. Or not, because his mane is still drying. Let's leave him alone. We're going to go back to the Chimera, who definitely has dried by this point. We'll leave the wings till last because I need somewhere to hold it. Oops. And just move this stuff without fucking up the camera too much. Okay. What do we want to do? We could do the reds now, just the reds for this, but I kind of want to do the wings and the dragon head at the same time so that I make sure I get the color mix exactly right for both of them. Oh, and the tail. So we got the goat head, and goat legs. We need a mostly grayish brown. So if we take, let's see if we can mix it with what we've got here already. If we take a bunch of this, mix it with a ton of that, and just a dab of black. Yeah, too much black. More brown. More gray. More substance. That is not enough paint to finish the whole thing. Where did my... Here's my brown. Oh, I'm going to need some water too. There. Hopefully that'll be good. I don't know if you're supposed to mix acrylic paint with primer, but it's worked for me in the past. That's what I'm doing now. Alright, it's time to make this actually one shade. Why isn't this mixing? Maybe it's because it's acrylic paint and primer. Wondering who all is here. I know Logan's lurking, playing some dark fantasy. There's been a couple other people in here as well. I wonder if Dane is still around. He had some great questions earlier. More. Yeah, okay. Alright, let's call that good. Let's start painting with this amalgamation of gray and brown. Oh yeah, that'll... maybe needs more gray, actually, to make it more different. Okay, yeah, that's better. That's more goat-like. And less lion-like. Let's see. Any other questions? Just talking about D&D in general. Maybe my upcoming projects. I've got something really cool in the works right now. It's been put on hold-ish a little bit. Because of players dropping out, you know, which I respect, you know. I'm good friends with both the players that dropped out. They just didn't have the bandwidth to do a new campaign, especially not one that was actually streamed and, you know, is going to be available for you guys, because, you know, that's not for everyone. So I respect that, and instead, today, actually, I'm going to go have some sushi at a buffet and it's going to be a good time. And at that sushi buffet, I will ask another player to join the campaign. Not necessarily to replace the two that left, because they're not really replaceable. They're both fantastic. Played with them before, but I'm going to take a risk and ask someone that I've never played with before to join a podcast, which I have decided. The campaign is going to be called Starfall. And it is going to be set in a warlike setting where the black dragon that rules the neighboring country is sort of is finally expanding. No one knows why. Well, I know, but the world doesn't know why he's only expanding now, because he had been like content with his current territory for hundreds of years. And now he's decided he needs more. So his swamplands are physically getting larger. And, lizard folk and dragonborn and all his other forces are moving up north towards the rest of the world. Maybe my microphone should be on the other side. I'll make that change later. I'm sorry, you guys, for I keep bumping it. But yeah, the actual campaign is going to take place in a city that is very close to the border, and is the first big city to be taken over if the dragon's pattern of invasion continues. So that's the setting for it. And why it's called Starfall is spoilers, so I can't tell you that. But I'm very excited for it. It will be a podcast. It won't be like a normal streamed actual play, which is what I usually watch. It's just going to be a podcast, audio only. That will allow me to have less to deal with. Just have to run microphones instead of running cameras as well for everyone. That's the plan. I'm going to turn that into my next, experimental campaign, which is really everything I run. Is like I'm always trying new things, finding out if they work or not for my tables specifically. I haven't figured out what experiment I'm going to try to run with this. It is a starting for a new campaign, so I'm still toying around with different ideas for that. We talked about that earlier. How to start like a hot start campaign or a cold start when everything freezes in time or just like gets frozen in a glacier. Which ironically is what the synopsis of the Pathfinder campaign I'm playing in right now is. Which reminds me, I don't know if any of those people are notified that I'm live right now. So, real quick, roles, announcements, hail and welcome. Nope, I don't have access to those. Exhibition hall. Control, paste. There we go. I'll be here for a while. They can come and join if they'd like. But yeah, starting a new campaign. I'm figuring out, I don't know. I've gone to, sometimes when I have difficulty trying to figure out what I want to do for a campaign, I will go to Reddit. Maybe not the best place for it, but I'll just post a question on several different sites asking for help. Usually they're pretty good about it. They give me some ideas at the very least, maybe not good ones, but they get me started thinking about what is good and what is bad, what would work, what wouldn't, why not, why. That just gets the thought process rolling for how I would want to start the campaign. There is something I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it here because I won't do it justice. Just explaining to you what my world is like instead of showing you the story that is going to take place in it. I'm a big proponent of showing, not telling. I think I got all the goat parts that I wanted to with this weird shade of gray-brown. We'll keep it on the palette. Maybe dry brush some in later to make it flow nicer. Because right now it's a pretty stark difference right there between the lion's back and the goat's butt. So I want to dry brush those into each other. Probably the lighter goat's butt into the lion's mane and hair to make it a smoother connection. And for those of you that are listening but might not know what dry brushing is, basically what you do is you take, you get your paint, you get your the paint on the brush, and then you wipe almost all of it off. And you, like, I sometimes actually like to let it dry on the brush a little bit, and then you just go real quick over the places you want to dry brush. And what it does is the paint only catches on the ridges of the of what's sticking up. So only the tallest parts of the sculpture catch the paint, and it doesn't soak into the crevices. And it really makes the hair especially just pop. It's really fun and super easy to do. It's basically magic when you do it the first time. It's so cool. Let's see. Manticore time? Manticore time. Do we want to do the face first? Or no, we can't do the face first. We need to decide what color the body's going to be. I'm thinking like this ruddy brown. That's kind of how I always imagined manticore hides, is like this dark reddish brown. So let's see. Oh, perfect. That shade right there. Burnt sienna, apparently. I don't know. Colors have strange names sometimes. Let's flip this around. Get some nice... Is it actually a color of the inside? It's redder than I'd like, but... yeah, maybe that can work. Wash it into the hair as well at some point. Yeah, let's do that. So, put some of this down. Close it up so it doesn't dry out. And then get some water, because you don't want to just put straight acrylic paint on minis. It doesn't look good. It looks actually quite bad, because the paint itself ends up creating like this, the ridges that aren't on the sculpture. It doesn't like adhere to the sculpture. It just creates its own structure on top of it. It's ugly. I don't like it. Yeah, more water. There we go. Maybe I should actually go watch more of Fry Mini's stuff now that I'm getting back into painting myself. Alright, this is very dark and very, very vibrant. So I'm going to have to be careful with how I apply it and where. Needs more water. Just a bit more. And the spikes obviously are not going to be this color. They're going to be like a bone sort of shade. Funny, bone shade. Name of a homebrew magic item that I created a while back. Super cool stuff. this is the tough part, making it seam in the right place, putting the seam between the two colors in the right place with the black of the wing. Which you guys, of course, can't see because there's shadow there. Because the wing is doing its job in blocking light, as one does. Wow, I'm getting rambly, aren't I? Again, in case you aren't familiar, we are listening to Michael Gelfi Studios music. Fantastic stuff. Always love listening to his stuff in the background. They would do mostly ambiences, but they're branching into music now as well. And, you know, it's pretty groovy. I never say groovy. I don't know why I just said that. To everyone listening, happy Saturday. I hope your break from work is going as well as mine. Just chilling, painting, having a good time. Talking about nerd shit. Like Dungeons and Dragons. I am ready for an absolute bomb. A question that makes you really think. Something to stop my painting in its tracks. Alright, my hand is starting to cramp up. Maybe it's time to quit the stream soonish. Shake it out a bit. Gotta get this coat of paint done though. Just this one color. Huh. It looks like it didn't prime too well. WizKids, you keep saying they're primed. But Steven was right earlier when he said repriming them is probably a good idea. Question for you guys. If anyone does paint in here, do you paint the bases as well? I don't. And I think I might need to change that soon. Because it looks gross. And the ones that I have painted the bases on, I don't know, put some grass on it and stuff like that. Because I do terrain as well. I just do some terrain crafting onto the base of the Mini. I think I need to start actually painting the bases because it will just like on the ones where I did have painted the bases, it just looks fantastic. It looks so much better than the ones that I don't. But I don't know, it's just annoying to paint them because it's always like between the legs, like doing the underside like I'm trying to do now. It's tough. It's really hard to get the brush in there. And not fuck up anything else that you've worked on. Like right now, I'm basically painting over the mane that I painted earlier and, you know, ruining all my hard work. It's fine. It's not something that's ever going to be seen on the table. No one's going to actually inspect it that closely. But the base is something that will be seen because it's pointed straight up instead of the underside of the manticore, which is pointed down. Maybe I should get a lighter shade for the palms of this guy. Probably make it look much better. Because even if you look at my hand, like, actually, I'm white, so there's not that much of a difference. But depending on the tone of your skin, palms tend to be much lighter shade than like the back of your hand. And I think that might be the case for this guy as well. Opposable thumbs and claws. Doesn't actually happen in nature anywhere, so he's a monstrosity. So, anybody been keeping up with Critical Role? Seems to be the hot topic in our niche at any given moment. I stopped watching them a while ago in favor of, actually playing instead of listening to people play. They are professionals. I do enjoy their content. I have nothing against what they're doing. I just don't like that it's taking over the niche so much. There are entire YouTube channels based on Critical Role theories. And nothing against the people that run those channels. I just wish that wasn't an interest, It's big, it's popular, it's well done. I wish it was the same quality and less popular. I know, hot take. Oh, you do? I'm just looking at chat now. Jordan, thanks for rejoining, or if you've been here the whole time, thanks. But yeah, Critical Role is it's great. Like, just as content to consume, it's fantastic. You can tell that they are professionals. There are people that try to make their sessions into Critical Role, and that goes into what I was talking to earlier about, like, you need to run your games knowing what your players like to do. So if you try to run your game like Critical Role, but your players are hack and slash and want to do dungeon crawls, you need to make sure that you do hack and slash and dungeon crawly things and don't require them to speak in character if they don't want to. It should be like D&D should be a safe space. You don't want to push people outside of their comfort zone if they don't want to go there. And doing everything in summary instead of scene. So differences between summary and scene being like describing exactly what happens. So Dennis paints the mini with very shaky hands because he's been doing it for too long. The brush strokes continue to lay down the latest layer of a deep ochre red to ensure that the manticore's skin tone is different from the hair on his mane. That's talking in scene. Talking in summary would be like, Dennis painted the mini, instead of describing in detail exactly what is happening. And summary goes much, much faster. Like, instead of saying, I describe, in summary would be like saying, I try to convince the guard to let us go and I will bribe them. Doing that in scene would be like, I don't think that I think we can come to an agreement here, can't we? And my character shakes a pouch of gold coins at the guard. That would be in scene, versus specifically saying exactly what you do is summary. And that's easier for some people. There's campaigns that I play in where people do that. Opinions/thoughts on the Lunar Sorcerer. Sorry, Luke. I have not looked at it yet. I think that the Lunar Sorcerer is a very late addition to, because they did it for 5th edition. They put out one D&D remake of the entire cleric class, and then made a cleric subclass that is not part of that remake. It just doesn't make sense. Like, there's not going to be a whole lot of time to play the Lunar Sorcerer before one D&D, the second player's handbook comes out. So the Lunar Sorcerer actually isn't. I missed it because it's not a part of my, choose your class project because it came out while I was filming. So I did not know about it until after I had finished filming that content, and I wasn't about to go back and add another sentence about a Lunar Sorcerer subclass in my cleric video, which has been posted. So you can actually go see on my channel the video about clerics. And yes, it doesn't have the lunar. It's a sorcerer. Why am I talking about clerics? I don't know. But yeah, same logic applies. I don't think the Lunar Sorcerer is going to be played a whole lot in general. It is new, but people right now are more interested in 1D&D than a new subclass that they're allowed to play. But I haven't looked at the actual, mechanics. Mechanics aren't really my thing. I like to play fast and loose with the rules. Rule of cool all the way. Because the entire point of D&D is to have fun. And most people at my table have more fun if I allow them to break the rules every now and then. As opposed to... I have played with people that are like, rules lawyers. Like, technically you can't do this, and if the rules are broken, they have less fun. I have played with people like that, and in those cases, I make sure that I follow the rules verbatim. Rules as written, raw. But like I said, sorry, I haven't looked at the Lunar Sorcerer yet. Every new option for D&D 5th edition right now from Wizards of the Coast feels uninteresting, uninspired, and way too late. Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. They are clearly putting effort into 1D&D stuff, not 5th edition supplements. Which is why I'm kind of surprised that Dragonlance is coming out, period. Like, I know they had teased it, but with 1D&D, they are clearly not putting a lot of effort into it. I'm not even buying it. Dragonlance, it is. Oh, hey Rivers. Glad to see you could join us. Just painting some minis, answering questions. I know you've always got some bangers locked and loaded as far as questions about D&D goes, so I am ready to answer anything you got. And right now, I'm going to start on the face of this manticore, since I want it to be about the same tone as everything else. Faces are tough in minis. But this manticore, since they have a much larger face, it should be easier to paint. You can actually get your brush in there, and the eyes, like the pupils of the eyes, are going to be more than a single dot of black in the right place. I'll repaint most of this over later, but for right now, I just need a base to cover anything that I might miss in detail work. Because you can't go over detail work with a base. You need to do it first. Otherwise, you just paint over everything you just worked on. Okay. The other thing I wanted to do with this color is I wanted to add a bunch of water to it. So, drip, drip, drip. More about that. Can you tell me more about that? I've been fascinated with stories of that kind of rules lawyer experience. Forming opinions on the patterns in those experiences. I think it's tough. It's a very different form of type of game. You could even say it's different entirely compared to the high roleplay that has become so popular in recent times. It's sort of like playing old D&D versus playing new D&D, like 3.5 or a D&D stuff. The people that enjoy that really, really enjoy doing all of the rules stuff. You know, that's that, and the people that were designing the game knew that. They leaned into it hard. Um, this work? No, more water. So the creators, you know, TSR, knew that the people that played their game loved the rules and like figuring out how to break the game, make the most powerful things they can. Everyone was a munchkin. Everyone was a power gamer. At least that's what they thought. So they leaned into it hard. 5th edition moved away from that. They are emphasizing sort of like a more loose style of play, a more storytelling vibe versus a dungeon crawling sort of thing. You can do both, but those are the words I'm going to be using: dungeon crawling versus storytelling. And when you're telling a story, you're not rolling dice to hit monsters and slay dragons. You are rolling fewer dice to convince people of things or to lie your way out of trouble when someone approaches. And I think that is just more interesting both to me and to, you know, today's players, today's D&D players. I think playing with rules lawyers in 5th edition isn't that... They don't like 5th edition as much, and for good reason. They enjoy more rules in general. So when, 3.5, like Rivers is saying, 3.5 has so many rules, and there's so many ways to build a broken character, but it's wildly complicated, so you really need to love that stuff in order to play it. So you can have rules lawyers and power gamers in 5th edition, and there are a lot of them, but the games they play in are different. They will go dungeon crawling. They will go... they don't really care why they're fighting the dragon. They just want to fight the dragon. Examples where someone wanted to stick to a rule that would make the game more or less fun for them to have the opposite effect on others. Examples. I haven't had one in a long time because I don't have any of those players in my games right now. Well, I have one, but I'm not really keeping track of one of that, like that sort of thing. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Yeah, I don't have any good examples right now. If I think of one, I'll mention it, but sometimes I'll allow, like, oh, here's one. The search action. When it specifically says that in order to make an ability check in combat, it is an action. Like, you take the search action and your action is making a perception check. If I'm playing with rules lawyers at the table, that will be their action. If I'm playing with people that focus more on storytelling, I will allow them to make a perception check for free. That is strictly against the rules. Like, just allowing someone to make a ability check in combat to attempt to do something that's not related to anything else that's happening, like searching for the enemy, I will allow that to happen for free. And I do this all the time. But if the person that I'm allowing it for is a rules lawyer and enjoys the rules a lot, then I will make them use their action instead. And they are okay with that. People that are rules lawyers enjoy difficulty. They enjoy the overcoming the challenge. So they have no problem that the rules make the game harder to play. That's the best example I can think of right now. And I think most people use the search action in this way. They don't, like, make people make their players take an action to look for the dragon that's hiding, that they know is behind the corner or whatever. Yeah, that's the best I could think. But Rivers had a question. Thoughts on 2024 D&D so far? I think... I'm going to be honest, Rivers. I have not read almost any of the 1D&D content. I think that our other content creation friends are keeping pretty good tabs on what's happening in 1D&D. So I haven't read it. I'm not making any content about it. And I'm having a great time just running 5th edition as it is without the new Unearthed Arcana stuff. Let's move over to our lovely, nasty green beholder. This is a variant beholder that just came out, I think. I picked it up at my local gaming store yesterday. I saw it on the shelf and I'm like, oh my god, I need that. Here's the beholder I painted last time. And I want this one to be as different as possible. So, dark red, thick tentacles, angry. This one is sort of like, I imagine this facial expression being like he doesn't really care as much, is kind of tired, just like drowsy. And I want him to be a brighter colored and the opposite color because I want to make him as different as I can. So, red, green. Mixed feelings about the Unearthed Arcana so far. Yeah. I mean, when the first Unearthed Arcana for 1D&D came out, I was like, you know what? Let's let the DM crit. It's already hard enough for people to die in 5th edition and for characters to like actually fully die. Like there's so many ways to stop it. Like you have to either go negative your full hit points worth of damage, and when you drop past 0, you automatically go back to normal 0, and you have to fail 3 death saving throws in order to actually die, which takes a while. And in that time, your healer's just going to healing word and you're back up on your feet. It's harder in other games for you to stay alive once you get to low hit points. And I think that taking away DM crits just makes it even harder for player characters to die, and I didn't like that, and I'm glad they're not keeping that in. Let's see. Back to what Jordan was asking earlier. Examples, if I may, that feels like a preference for storytelling versus more like a more Munchkin thing without wanting to know the rules. Less like a preference for storytelling. Yeah, basically they would want to have 2 actions on their turn. It's really just one player that I still play with that is a rules lawyer. And he is okay with his characters dying. He is very okay with, creating a new one. His big thing is he doesn't like 5th edition, but he plays with us anyway. He's a big proponent of 3.5 because there are so many more rules, and his argument is that the rules are more realistic, more accurate. You actually add correct numbers to, flanking is a +2, not advantage. Advantage, disadvantage doesn't happen in 3.5. They literally took about 2 books worth of rules from 3.5 and condensed it down into advantage, disadvantage in 5th edition. And that makes it less realistic, I guess, is his gripe with it. Which, if that's your thing, you want more rules and you want it to be as accurate as possible, that makes sense. That's his thing. I disagree. I like easier rules. Like if there's a rules thing that we don't actually know the answer for, I'll have a player look it up and say, for now we'll go with this, but you look it up while we continue playing. I don't want to pause the game to look up exactly whether this is an action or a bonus action. I'll say, okay, make it a bonus action. I'll be nice. And by be nice, I mean allow the players to do what they want to, but then make the combat harder because I know I'm, breaking the rules for them. So break the rules for the monsters too. Had a discussion on Discord the other day about how 5e doesn't try to overload you with rules. Yes, that is very true. But gives you the rules for the right things. What do I think? Yeah, I think that's true. It is very light on the rules. It tried to go light on the rules, so it extended to a larger audience, and more people would be interested in playing because you don't have to do as much math. And it obviously it worked. 5th edition has seen a huge rise in D&D popularity. I think one of the contributing factors to that is that rules in 5th edition are much easier than rules in earlier editions. Except 4th edition. 4th edition was too easy, I think. But that's another can of worms that I don't want to open right now. But yeah, so 5th edition doesn't try to overload you with rules and gives you the right rules for the right things. So if you are trying to do something, the 5th edition gives the dungeon master pretty good guidance on how to make that thing happen. As long as it's like a single event, like there is going to be like the correct ability checks for it. Like you can say, this intimidation check is going to be used with strength instead of charisma, so you can recalculate it that way. If someone is trying to, instead of intimidate them with words, just trying to like crush something in front of them, which is entirely valid. And it calls out that you can do that. So it does give you the right rules for the right things. There are plenty of places where it falls short in that, but in general, yes. It has as few rules as possible without, leaving too many things out. So you don't have to like keep making up rules on the fly when you play. Now, this guy. He's a nasty boy, and we need to figure out a color for his mouth. What does this thing think its mouth is? Sort of a dark pinkish. Yeah? With nasty green teeth. I'm definitely not going to make the teeth green. I need them to be different from the rest of the beholder, I do like it looks like it has sort of a brown wash. I don't know if you can see it in the quality of the camera I'm using for this. But I think it does. Yeah, I think it does do a pretty good job of making him look nasty. But for now, we'll use a dark pinkish tone for his mouth. Let's see what we got. So we got this portrait pink, which I don't think is going to be dark enough, so let's just darken it with some black, yeah? Put it right there. Gross. Paint looks like old milk. Yuck. Let's do some water first. And mix it up. Make sure it gets nice and not congealed, the opposite of congealed. Oh man, I cannot think of the word right now. Saturated. There you go. I still don't think that's the word I'm looking for, but it'll work for our purposes. Probably need some more water. You know, this is fun. I haven't painted in a while. I've never painted live streaming, but it is fun, you know, just to hang out with you guys, talk about nerd shit. Let's put a little bit of black in here. Ooh, that was too much black. It might work. We could have it make it like a black mouth. Gotta be careful with black when you're mixing it with stuff. Yuck. Gross. This is just gray. What the heck? Let's put a little bit of this in here. See what happens. Huh. Nope, still just gray. Huh. Well, that didn't work. Interesting. Let's see if I can put a bunch of red in it. Burnt sienna. Actually, let's go to brighter red, so we don't have to use as much paint. There we go. This is the brightest one I got, pretty much. Yeah, bloody mouth almost. Put it right there in the middle. That is going to be way too much, as always. Oh, actually, yeah, that's too much. Still learning. Like I said before, not a painter. This just looks like raspberry paste. Need more brown. Now, the tough thing about this is to make sure that you don't mix it so hard that it eats through the this paper on the tray and stain the sponge beneath it that holds the water and keeps the paint wet. I've done that before. Not pleasant. I think this is good enough color for what we want to do. Make it wet. Mix it up well. And then move over to actually painting this guy's mouth. Oh yeah, that's actually perfect. Woo! Nice, dark, fleshy skin tone for the inside of this guy's gaping maw, toothy maw. Anybody got any other burning questions? We've got a little bit of 1D&D talked about. Got Lunar Sorcerer uncovered because I haven't read it yet. Sort of talked about where D&D is going, whether we like it or not. We've got how to do a good start to a campaign, which I'm still working on for my upcoming Starfall campaign, which will be just a podcast, probably on Spotify, but I'll put some of the stuff on YouTube for you guys to see. Maybe clips or something. Let's see. No, I want to keep those gums where they are. Maybe I'll turn this into a wash for the gums between the teeth. That'll make it much easier. I know I said I'd quit soon, but I'm having a great time hanging out with you guys, just painting. I love it. I don't know, does he look good to you? Does that look like a well-covered mouth? I think it looks alright. Let's put a little bit of water on the brush and wash it between the teeth. So by putting water on the brush with the paint that's already there, it mixes up the paint really well and makes the paint just run into all of the crevices instead of staying on the top of like the raised portions. And I don't want to paint the teeth the color of the flesh, but you see how when I've been washing this, right? And now it is running into all the gums between the teeth instead of instead of painting the teeth themselves. And then you can come back later and fix the teeth. Maybe dry brush inside a little bit at some point. Just to bring out those ridges on the inside of the mouth and the bumps on the tongue. I want to make sure that this excellent sculpt is brought out in as much detail as possible. But for now, we will let that dry. And I think we'll let it dry like this, laying it down so that the paint doesn't run down the jaw. Put that over there for now. Oh, stretch. I know a lot of people on Twitch have like these, reminders to hydrate, reminders to stretch. See if I can. I don't think YouTube has a stuff for that right now, but it will at some point. All right, I started doing this 2 hours ago. Let's do one more coat of something. This guy. Let's dry brush a little bit. Oh, actually, I missed a huge part. I don't know if you guys can see that, but between the lion, on the lion's mane, right next to the goat's head, there's a huge part where, focus, there we go. There's a huge part where there's just nothing. I gotta fix that real quick. And then I can dry brush. Hopefully this is the right color still, because I know I mixed it up with some stuff earlier. Fingers crossed. Yeah, that'll work. Didn't miss anything else. I think rules lawyers that I've played with just want to be right. Yeah. There is that, I mean, in college, I studied psychology, specifically how belief works. And a big part of that is something called cognitive dissonance, which, boiled down to its absolute simplest terms, is people hate being wrong. Most people cannot admit that they are wrong, myself included, and I'm well aware of this. So one of the things I try to live by is always never insist that you are correct at anything, and this extends obviously to D&D. The rules lawyers you're talking about, Rivers, are people that read the rules, and this is the way that it is, and it's what they were expecting. So they can get upset if they find out that that's not how it works, or they're so sunk into their belief of how it's supposed to work that they just reject any other kind of opinion about how it should work, how it's going to work. And there is give and take with this. If this is between a player and a DM, especially talking about rules. So if you have a player that built their whole character around this one very specific rule, made one gimmick, said this is cool, let's make it as much as possible, and then you as a DM go in and either interpret that differently so that their built character doesn't work, or they just misread it themselves, or something like that. That is a point at which the DM should allow that rule to be broken. Even though it's not how it's supposed to be run, make the player aware that you are making an exception. I don't think this is how it should be run, but I'm not about to make you remake an entire character. That is an example of how to deal with a rules lawyer, or someone that insists that their interpretation of what the rules say is correct. Jordan, in your experience, wanting to adhere to the rules is usually based on the person who knows a rule of thinking of three or more other parts of the game that dramatically change if the rule changes. Yes. Freedom to search without an action example would invalidate a lot of stealth and hiding concepts. Stealth is still, we had a big roundtable about stealth. We all had very different opinions on how to run stealth in game. So yeah, this is all great stuff. This we're all right in our own minds, and when we're talking to each other, and we all agree that rules need to bend in order to have fun. There are exceptions to this when a player insists that a rule is done a certain way, and if it's not done that way, they won't have fun. Then you can make an exception with it. Sometimes players just want to make sure you understand that you're making a custom ruling, and that it is understood that this is a custom homebrew rule and would not be allowed in Adventurers League, the official D&D content where you have to follow all the rules. This is a home game, and this is a custom ruling. Yes, I think making that distinction is usually enough for the players, saying that, no, this is actually how it's done because I said so, and I think it's more balanced this way, and I think the game will be more fun for everyone with this custom ruling. And that's, you need to keep that at the front of your head whenever you do that sort of thing. You need to make sure that it is understood that we play this game to have fun, so I'm going to do what I can to make sure that that happens. All right, let's see if we can dry brush some goat hide. Get some paint on the brush. Get all the paint off the brush without dipping it in water. This might be tough because this is pretty wet paint. That should work. Oh. Okay, there's just no paint on it at all. Yeah, there we go. There we go. It's also good to specify if you're making a ruling for a moment that is just for then, or if you're setting a precedence for the game going forward. That's also important, especially if you're making a ruler like I was talking about earlier, like a ruling about... I'm sorry, I keep hitting this microphone. I'll put it up here, see if that makes any difference. It's talking about a ruling for... a character that someone built around this rule that is now being interpreted differently. Doesn't matter which interpretation is correct, really. But if it's being interpreted differently, then the character's build that it's been designed to do won't work, and that sucks. I've been on both ends of this, making exceptions for players and asking the DM for exceptions, because I didn't read the rules closely enough. Like I made a barbarian that was entirely dex-based, and I gave him like the sharpshooter thing, and he threw daggers and all that stuff. But most of the barbarian rules say specifically either has to be strength-based or has to be a melee attack, and I was using all those strength and melee stuff for throwing daggers, which are dex and ranged. And we realized that about halfway through the campaign, and we decided to just let it fly. This is not how it's supposed to be played. But if this is wrong, then my character sucks, and that is not fun. So we decided to just leave it as is. There were only a couple sessions left, so everyone was all right with it. All right. Got some dry brushing in. It's a much smoother transition now between the, yikes. Okay, give me some light. If I do this. There we go. Much smoother transition now between the goat butt and the lion's hide. Gotta move that light maybe so you guys can see it better, but not right now. So yeah, smoother transition. That was the point of that dry brush, and I think it worked. Yeah, we said that would be the last one. Beholder is still wet. Manticore. I could do the spikes on the Manticore. I don't know. You guys want me to keep going? Hang out for a bit more? I think I will do just the spikes, because like if you look at the Manticore's hair here, you see those, there are actual spikes inside a Manticore's mane, which I think aesthetically is super cool. So I definitely want to bring those out. Let's make it a bone color, and I got just the thing. I got this unbleached titanium, which is going to be the perfect shade for it, because bones aren't like white if they're exposed. Like you look at nails and teeth, they usually aren't white. They're like off-white, almost yellowish. I mean, some people's teeth are white when they take really, really good care of them, but mine are not. Just doing the dishes and hanging out, cool. I mean, that's what I do. Whenever I have to do chores, vacuuming, do dishes, tidy up, whatever it might be, I just figure out if anybody I'm following is live, and if not, jump on like a actual play of someone I don't know. See if I can discover new people that way. Alright, let's see. I gotta be careful with this. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna use a different brush. This one's too big and has too many loose bristles, and I want these to stand out a bit more. It'd be a very stark difference from the hair that they're embedded in. So let's use this guy. Yikes. I need a protection for that. Don't want to use him. Let's do... Yeah, this one will work. No idea if you guys can see that, but this should work. Yeah. Okay. Bone white. A shade of bone. Start with these little claws up here. Weirded out by people with white teeth. Yeah, it's not normal. Like, your teeth feel like they're not supposed to be white. Like, there's so many stained foods these days. And having, like, even being weirded out by people with white teeth, you can use that in D&D. Like, say, this guy's teeth are... His mouth has, like, pearly white teeth, unnaturally perfect and straight. It's a bit freaky. You know, something's up when someone has teeth that are too white and too straight. And Jordan, I gotta DM you later about a collab. So if I don't, remind me. I'm a very forgetful person, but we had talked about something in the future going forward. And I've just confirmed that it will happen. Probably like March or something. So a while away. This Manticore is going to be amazing. I'm so excited for it. It's like, it's at this point when I start painting, when I'm painting something, when I get into the detail work is when I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be fantastic. I know we talked about, earlier about whether or not you, like, cut off the mold lines, which is like, the seam in the mold that this piece of plastic was cast in. But I also wonder if people resculpt a little bit. Like, I'm looking at these spines on the Manticore, and I'm thinking, you know, they're really not sharp at all. And they can't make sharp things for, you know, a $5 mini. So, what do? Do people that want a really good mini, that is only $5, actually, like, resculpt their stuff, sharpen the spines and whatnot? Because specifically sharpening would not be that difficult. I mean, I grew up in a suburb. My dad really liked outdoorsy things, so I learned at a pretty young age how to whittle with a pocket knife and make stuff out of wood, just like for funsies. Making, like, I don't know, a spear or... I could never do faces. Those are basically impossible. But I had fun just, you know, cutting up wood with a pocket knife, like a stick. But I wonder if people resculpt their minis. That'd be a good question for Eric. Fry Minis. He would know. Any other burning questions? We could bring up an old question from a DM roundtable. I always like hanging out with that crew. There's one thing in my new campaign, my evil campaign, where they ran into some manticores, and I keep forgetting, but they killed off these 2 starving manticores and then ran into their babies afterwards, and they just kind of left them. And I really want that to come back into the campaign at some point. Like, these manticores that mature very quickly are now teenagers, and their parents abandoned them, and they're all like super angry at them, but still want their parents to love them more than anything. I think that would be a very weird and interesting roleplay opportunity. But I don't know if... Ooh, how important is gold in my campaigns? Oh, Christmas lights at the zoo. That sounds like a great time, Rivers. I hope you have a good time. Thanks so much for tuning in while you can. Great to have you around. You always have excellent questions. Gold in my campaigns. I learned the hard way that letting the players have too much gold is a bad thing. I had a player really early on in my DMing experience that would have as much gold as possible at whatever cost. Which means that despite the fact that he had 72,000 gold pieces, he would haggle for a rope from two gold pieces down to 1. Like, and it started to get annoying, and at the time I didn't know how to fix it. Eventually that player left the campaign. He was, I don't know. We say it as a joke, but he's the only person I've ever met that was bad at playing D&D. But that's just because he never gave his characters a sense of mortality. He played in 2 campaigns with me, and 4 of his characters died. I think that's a bit excessive. Anyway, specifically about gold. I usually have gold just be like payment for stuff. I don't usually have players find hoards of gold. If they find a dragon hoard, they're going to find stuff more interesting than money. As far as like how much gold, I usually make it pretty slim as far as when the players go buy things, because I don't like DMing shopping scenes that much, to be honest. I know you just made a whole video about this, Jordan. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. But when I do... Hey, Christina. Oh, Joe, how's it going? I was like, who the heck is Christina? I'm very confused. Talking about handling gold in D&D, and I usually keep it pretty slim because I don't like shopping scenes, and most of my players don't like shopping scenes. So if they have a ton of gold, they just want to go shopping, even if they know they don't like it. And I want to keep D&D fun at all times. That's the whole point. Every decision I make is based on what is going to be fun. So I don't do shopping stuff like that. If they need, like, sometimes they'll need, like, a purchase. Like, in one of my campaigns, they bought a house, like a base to use. Well, actually, no, they didn't buy it. They kind of stole it, and it was in the middle of the mountains away from everything, so. Anyway. So they had, like, this sort of... You know what? I'm just going to take this tail and I'm going to paint it all bone colored. Yeah. And I'll just wash it with something darker, because that's getting annoying. As far as gold and silver versus, other rewards, I like doing other rewards way more. They're more interesting than just, here's some money. I'll give them a magic item that I make up on the spot. I will give them merit. I will like they I don't keep track of like renown points, but eventually players do get famous, especially if they like save a town. Everyone in the town is gonna know their name. That in itself is a reward. And I'll make that apparent to the players if they say, "Why didn't we find any gold? We did all this thing." And I'm like, "Well, you did like save people, and like they will like if you have a giant battle, they're gonna send their warriors to help you if you ask." Stuff like that. But yeah, gold is a tough thing to handle. I learned that the hard way early on. Very interesting system for shopping. Instead of shopping, they can retroactively assume they bought what they want. Interesting. I have done that in the past, but like not doing it on purpose and like explaining to the players like, yes, this is allowed. If you want to have bought something, you can. I enjoy that. I actually think I might try that out in my experimental campaign, the evil one. Because I don't ever want to like say, "Ooh, that's a good idea. You should." I've been asked many times for this video now, and I'm finally actually putting it all together about how to run the chases I do, because they're fantastic and fun and super intense every time. Like my players legit cheer when I announce that a chase is happening. Oh, Joe, meet Jordan from Flute's Loot. He has an excellent and well put together YouTube channel that you should go check out. Dungeons and Dragons stuff. All of it is great. Cool dude with some very interesting and useful thoughts. But don't check it out right now. I'm streaming. Check it out after. Let's see. Actually, maybe I could. Let's see if I can do this while I'm streaming. But I think I can redirect this to your new video, Jordan. If I go into edit, where's customization? There it is, redirect. Okay, so if I open up a new tab, type in, oh god, my keyboard's way over here, Flute's Loot. Actually, it was pretty recent. I might not even have to use the keyboard. I can just... Nope, 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 nope. Okay, I'm gonna search it. Flute's Loot. Pull up your channel page. Videos. Recently uploaded. Noblemen hate him. Copy that. Control C. Pause it so I can watch it myself later. Give it a like. Wow. This really exploded, didn't it? This is fantastic. Redirect. Search videos from other channels. Paste. No. "13 ways to spend gold." in D&D. No, it's not coming up. I'm not going to be able to figure it out now. Sorry, man. Instead, I will just throw the link in here. And then I will hit return when I'm done so we can all have that link to go check out that video. Which, 3.4K views, and you published it yesterday. That's fantastic. That's super good. All right, moving on to this soaking wet tail. Oh man, this is just an absolute mess now. This is gonna be tough to fix later, but that's okay. I'll enjoy it. I'll probably even stream it. I think you can forward to regular videos. I know you can forward to your own regular videos. I don't know if you can forward to other people's regular videos. Or redirect is what YouTube is calling it. You can't raid. The issue was it was impossible for me to find in the forwarding search bar. I can't just like copy paste your video link. YouTube didn't like that. We'll call that good for the Manticore. And I will throw this in now because it is time for me to go maybe eat a snack. Maybe not. I'm going to a sushi buffet later. Super excited. But I'll be asking someone to join my campaign there. My new upcoming podcast, which I will be putting all of my energy into, all of my best DMing skills, kind of like I did for the Garlax Chronicle, which I'm super proud of. So I'm going to close out the stream. If you're here and you're looking at the chat, go ahead and click on that link. Bring it up in a new tab or whatever. It is a link to Flute's Loot 13 Ways Pros Spend Gold in D&D. It has done extremely well, and I'm super excited to see what you threw together for that. Until then, I will be seeing you around. I think I'm getting into the vibe of releasing videos on Mondays and Thursdays. My new big video will probably be released on Thursday. It will be a description of how to run my style of chases, which you can see in the Garlax Chronicle, you can see in the holiday or my birthday charity one-shot I did on Wednesday, and you can see it in my zombie video that I did a long time ago. I've been asked a lot for this in-depth video on how I run chases. It's coming, I promise. Until then, just remember, everything is going to be okay. Thanks for joining, everyone. It was a great time, and I will see you around.